The jungle was quiet, except for the sound of Kyle's boots stepping on wet leaves. The human explorer moved carefully through the ancient ruins, his eyes scanning every wall and broken statue. It was hot, humid, and full of alien insects buzzing. In the air, beside him, walked an alien girl named Vera, tall, graceful. And glowing slightly under the twin suns, she was teasing him again, laughing softly. "You humans are so slow," she said, flipping her silver hair back. Kyle smiled, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Well, you aliens build your temples in the middle of nowhere?" he replied. Vera grinned and walked ahead, her long coat moving like mist behind her. They stepped into a large hall made of black stone, filled with strange carvings. At the center stood a statue of a warrior. Proud and tall, covered in armor that shimmered even under the dust of time. "This is him," Vera whispered, her voice softer now. "My ancestor." Kyle stared at the armor. It looked ancient, but beautiful. Silver plates with glowing blue lines ran across the chest and arms. The helmet rested under one arm of the statue, shaped like a dragon's face. Kyle stepped closer, looking at the details. He had never seen craftsmanship like this, even in museums. "What does the writing say?" he asked, pointing to the symbols on the base. Vera chuckled. "It says only the worthy may carry the storm." Then she looked at Kyle with a playful smirk. "Hey, why don't you try it on?" Kyle laughed, thinking it was just a joke. "It probably weighs a ton," he said. Vera shrugged. Maybe not." He looked again at the armor, curiosity growing. Something about it called to him. He reached out and touched one of the shoulder plates. To his surprise, it moved lightly, as if it were still alive. He looked at Vera. "Unsure. Go on," she said. "Half serious now. Just try the chest plate." Kyle slowly lifted the chest armor from the statue. It wasn't heavy at all, almost like it wanted to be held. He pressed it against his chest, and then everything changed. The armor snapped onto him like a magnet, locking in place. Blue lights flashed across the lines of the armor, racing around his body. Kyle gasped as he stumbled back, falling to one knee. More pieces flew from the statue of shoulder guards, gauntlets, boots attaching to him by force. "Vera." He shouted, trying to pull them off, but they wouldn't move. Vera's smile disappeared. "Replaced by shock? No," she whispered. "This shouldn't be happening." The hall lit up with strange lights from the walls. Ancient machines came to life, blinking and humming. A loud click echoed as a hidden door opened in the wall behind them. "What's going on?" Kyle asked, panicked. Vera stepped back slowly, her face pale. "You weren't supposed to be able to wear it," she said. "Only our bloodline could. But it chose you." Before Kyle could speak again, a voice echoed in the hall. Not from the speakers, not from any machine, but from inside the armor. "Host confirmed," the voice said, waking memory. Suddenly visions hit Kyle's mind. Flashes of war, fire, planets exploding. He saw alien warriors falling in battle, giant creature roaring into the stars. Then he saw a small child, human, and protected by a warrior in the same armor he now wore. He fell to the ground, gasping. Vera ran to him, kneeling. "Kyle, are you okay?" "I saw something," he said, shaking something from long ago. The temple shook violently. Dust raining from the ceiling. A loud alarm began to echo through the jungle outside. On a distant mountain, hidden cameras zoomed in on Kyle's position inside a dark chamber. Several alien elders stared at the screen. "It has begun," one of them said. "The armor has returned." Another elder growled, "And it chose a human." Vera helped Kyle stand, her hands shaking slightly. "You need to run," she said, her voice filled with fear. "Why?" Kyle asked, still dizzy. "Because now they will come for you." Outside the temple, engines roared as several ships took off from a hidden base. Bounty hunters and soldiers began flying toward the ancient jungle, not to explore, not to study, but to kill. Kyle looked down at the armor, now calm and glowing softly. It felt like it was part of him now. He looked at Vera, confused and scared. "What is this?" he asked. She answered in a whisper. "This armor belonged to the most powerful warrior in our history, and now it belongs to you. Asterisk, the jungle sky was turning red as the suns began to set. Kyle and Vera ran through the trees, leaves slapping against their faces. The armor clung tightly to Kyle's body, moving with him like it had always belonged, but his heart was racing, not from the run but from what he had just seen. They didn't speak for a while. The silence between them was heavy. Vera's eyes were full of fear, but she kept glancing back to make sure he was okay. Kyle finally broke the silence. "Why did it choose me?" he asked, his voice still shaking. Vera didn't answer at first. Then she said quietly, "It was only supposed to choose one of us." Behind them, the jungle shook as ships flew overhead. Scanning with bright blue beams, alien drones flew low, searching the trees. They weren't searching for ruins. They were hunting him. "They'll track us soon," Vera said, grabbing his arm. "We have to go underground." They reached a steep cliff covered with vines. Vera pushed the plants aside, revealing a hidden tunnel carved into stone. "This was once a war escape route," she said. Kyle followed her down the dark, damp steps, his armor lighting up faintly to guide the way. Inside the tunnel, Kyle sat on a rock, breathing hard. "I don't understand," he said. "I was just joking when I put it on. I didn't want this." Vera sat across from him, her voice softer now. "No one who wore that armor ever had a choice." She said, "It chooses who it wants." Kyle looked at her, confused. "But I'm not even from your species," he said. "I'm human." Vera hesitated, then looked him straight in the eyes. "There was once a legend," she said, "about a warrior who broke the rules of our kind. He fell in love with someone not of his blood. They said he hit her and their child. No one believed it until now." Kyle blinked, not understanding. "You think I'm related to one of your ancestors?" She nodded slowly. "The armor remembers blood," she said, "and it responded to yours." A sudden noise made them freeze, metal footsteps echoing from above. They weren't alone anymore, up in the jungle. A team of elite bounty hunters had landed, 6 tall aliens in black armor, their eyes glowing behind helmets. One of them knelt, touching the ground. He went into the cliff tunnel. He growled. The leader nodded. "Alive if possible," he said. "Dead if needed. He cannot leave this planet." Back in the tunnel, Kyle's armor started glowing brighter. Symbols lit up on his arm plates and chest. Then he heard the voice again. "Defense protocol." "Ready?" it said calmly. He stood up fast. "What does that mean?" he asked. Suddenly, a shield of energy formed around his arm. It flickered. With blue light like a living wave, Kyle stared at it in shock. "Okay?" "That's new." Vera looked around nervously. "They found us," she whispered. "We have to move." They ran deeper into the tunnel, the light growing dimmer. Kyle's footsteps echoed louder now in the silence, but the armor kept guiding him. It made turns for him, activated walls to open. It was like it knew this place even better than she did. Suddenly, a loud boom echoed behind them. A blast had opened the tunnel entrance. "Go!" Vera shouted, pulling Kyle forward. Gunfire blasted through the tunnel walls, sparks flying past them. Kyle turned, and without thinking raised his shield. A laser bolt slammed into a hand, bounced off harmlessly. He gasped. "It works!" Bounty hunters closed in fast, their leader stepping forward. He carried a heavy pulse cannon, his voice deep and full of rage. "You don't deserve that armor, human," he growled. "Give it up and die quickly." Kyle raised the shield again. Shaking but ready, he didn't know how to fight. But the armor moved with him. It guided his arm, helped him dodge. Then something strange happened. A pulse of energy fired from his chest plate, slamming into one of the hunters. The alien crashed into the wall. Unconscious, Kyle stood still, breathing hard. "What was that?" he whispered. Vera smiled. "Even in the chaos, it's protecting you," she said. Like it remembers how, but the others weren't backing off. Vera pulled out a plasma blade and stood beside him. "If you're going to wear that armor," she said, "you'd better start fighting like a warrior." Kyle nodded slowly, his fear turning into something else. Not anger, not rage, but resolve. He looked at the hunters, then down at the glowing armor on his chest. "Let's give them a reason to be scared," he said, and with that, the real fight began, deep in the shadows of an ancient world. A human wearing the armor of legends, and an alien girl ready to defend his life, together. Hunted by the past, but stepping into a future neither of them expected, the air inside the ancient tunnels was heavy and quiet again. Kyle sat against the stone wall, sweat on his forehead, armor cracked in a few places. His breathing was shaky, his hands trembling slightly. Around him lay pieces of broken tech from the bounty hunters they'd just defeated. The battle was over for now. Vera stood near the tunnel entrance. Her blade still humming softly, she watched Kyle closely. Her eyes filled with something new. It wasn't just surprise anymore, it was respect. You fought like someone trained. Since birth, she said. Kyle looked up at her, still confused. But I've never held a weapon before this, he said. I just moved, and the armor moved with me. Vera nodded slowly, walking closer. The armor remembers, she said, sitting beside him. It has stored memories from every warrior who wore it. But you're human, she added. You shouldn't be able to access any of that. Kyle wiped his face and leaned back. That's not even the weirdest part, he said quietly. When I was fighting, I saw something like flashes in my head. Vera turned to him sharply. What did you see? His eyes, trying to recall. There was fire, he whispered. Alien soldiers running, explosions, a giant creature covered in metal screaming into the sky. Then, I saw someone holding a child. She looked like you, but not exactly. She was holding a human baby, protecting it from soldiers. Vera's eyes widened. She didn't speak, just stared ahead, as if remembering something long buried. That confirms it, she said softly. The legend was real. Kyle turned to her, confused. What legend? Vera stood up, her voice calm but serious. Thousands of years ago, one of our greatest warriors disappeared, she began. Some say he turned against the Empire. Others say he died, but there were secret stories told only among rebel bloodlines that he fell in love with someone. From our world. Kyle stood up slowly, the armor adjusting with a soft hum. You mean a human? Vera nodded. And they had a child, she said. A child who was never accepted by either side. The warrior hid them and sealed the armor with a command only. Someone of that mixed bloodline could wear it again. Kyle took a deep breath. So I'm his descendant? Vera didn't answer right away, but her eyes said yes. The armor found you because of that, she said, but there's something else. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small glowing shard. It pulsed softly. In her palm, this is a memory key, she said, meant to unlock the full truth from the armor, but it only responds to someone the armor accepts. She stepped closer and gently placed the shard against Kyle's chest. The armor lit up instantly, swallowing the shard in light. Kyle gasped and stumbled as his mind was pulled into a storm of visions. He stood on a different planet, cold red skies above. A massive battle was taking place between aliens and strange machines. He was not himself anymore. He was someone else, a tall, armored warrior. Fighting with fire in his eyes and sorrow in his heart, beside him stood a woman, humano, human with dark hair and soft eyes. She was shouting something. But the words were lost. Then the warrior carried a small child into a hidden chamber. He sealed it shut, whispered a code, and said, "You will be more than both worlds. You will unite what we broke." The vision ended with a bright light. Kyle collapsed to his knees. Shaking, Vera caught him. Holding him steady, he looked up at her, eyes glowing faintly. "I saw him," he said. "I saw the moment he hid the child." Vera's voice trembled. "That child's blood flows in you?" she whispered. "You're the one the Empire fears." Suddenly, the ground shook beneath their feet. From the tunnel above, a new noise echoed, something heavy, something mechanical. Vera grabbed her blade. "They sent something stronger this time," she said. A red glow filled the dark hallway as a large shadow descended. It wasn't just another bounty hunter. It was a war machine built to destroy ancient armor users, covered in old symbols. Its voice was cold and robotic. "Target confirmed," it said. "Terminate the air." Kyle stepped forward, the armor shifting again. Its chest plate glowed with new markings, the same ones from the vision. The voice in the armor returned. Louder this time. Stage 2 unlocked, it said. Partial. Sync achieved. Vera looked at him in shock. The armor is merging with your DNA, she said. That's impossible. But Kyle wasn't afraid anymore. He looked at the machine ahead, then at his glowing hands. I think it's time. Stop running, he said. I want answers. And just like that, he charged forward. It's not just a human anymore, but a living memory of two worlds, a warrior the galaxy tried to erase. Now returning to write his own story, the battle against the war machine was still echoing in Kyle's mind. Even after they escaped into the ruins of an old city, he could feel the armor humming with energy. It wasn't just clothing now, it felt alive. It reacted to his thoughts, his heartbeat, even his fear. Vera walked beside him in silence, keeping her blade ready. They entered what looked like a fallen temple, half buried in the ground. Broken statues lined the walls, and a long cracked path led to a glowing chamber. Vera spoke quietly. This place was once a proving ground. Kyle looked around for warriors. She nodded. Only those who wore the ancestor's armor could enter. The moment Kyle stepped past the gate, the lights inside the temple turned on. The ground vibrated, and strange alien symbols appeared on the floor. Vera stepped back. Unable to cross, it's responding to you, she whispered. You're inside the trial zone. Before Kyle could ask more, the armor spoke again. Trial initiated. It said in a voice that echoed inside his skull. Test 1. Survival. Stone walls around him rose from the ground, forming a maze. Then shadows began to move. Dozens of holographic enemies appeared, warriors made of light and smoke. They charged at him without mercy. Kyle raised his arm. The energy shield returning to his hand, the first enemy attacked. Swinging a sword that sparked with plasma, Kyle blocked it, but the force pushed him back. He rolled, came up on one knee, and raised his other hand. The armor responded, firing. A shockwave that knocked 3 enemies into the wall. His eyes widened. It's teaching me, he whispered. Every movement felt easier now, smoother. The armor was not just protecting him, was training him. For the next hour, he fought wave after wave. The enemies moved faster, their weapons sharper, their tactics smarter. Kyle bled, sweat poured down his face, but he didn't stop. He learned how to redirect energy, how to absorb impact. His punches became stronger, his speed faster. By the time the last wave faded, he was standing tall, his armor glowing like fire under his skin. Vera watched from outside the chamber, her heart pounding. He's changing, she whispered. He's becoming like the ancestor. Then the next trial began. Test 2. Truth, the armor said. Kyle was suddenly pulled into darkness, his body frozen, but his mind pulled deep inside. He stood in a memory again this time, not just a flash. This was the day the first human was brought to the alien world. He saw an alien woman arguing with a council. This child is innocent, she shouted. Holding a half-human boy, the council members responded coldly. No creature of 2 bloods may live. The woman escaped, hiding the child in a secret vault. That vault, Kyle realized, was the same temple where he first wore the armor. Kyle gasped as the vision ended. Falling to one knee, Vera ran to the edge of the chamber. Shouting his name, he looked up at her with fire in his eyes. I saw him again, he said. The one who came before me, he didn't die. He gave everything to protect that child. The armor pulsed once, and then a final trial appeared. Test 3. Will. A massive figure rose from the ground, 10 feet tall, wearing dark red armor. Its eyes glowed, its weapons hummed. Kyle barely had time to react. The enemy struck hard. Kyle flew across the chamber, crashing into stone. The armor protected his body, but the pain was real. He stood slowly, blood on his lip. I'm not backing down, he growled. The figure charged again, but this time Kyle moved with confidence. He dodged, struck, and used the environment crumbling pillars. Walls, echoes of sound. The fight was brutal, but Kyle kept pushing, even when his legs shook and his chest burned. Finally, the armor let out a loud pulse. Kyle jumped, slammed his fist into the enemy's core. and the figure exploded in a flash of light. Silence returned to the chamber. Then the armor spoke for the last time. "Trial complete," it said. Partial synchronization. 78%. New abilities unlocked. The armor opened along his arms, revealing glowing circuits beneath his skin. Vera entered the chamber at last, staring at him in disbelief. "You passed all three." Kyle nodded, breathing hard. "What does it mean?" he asked. Vera looked around at the glowing runes. "It means you are the heir, not just of the armor," she said, "but of a legacy that even my people buried in fear." Suddenly a voice echoed from the shadows. "Then let the galaxy fear again." A new figure appeared, walking slowly into the temple, an alien general. Tall and covered in silver-black armor, with a scar running across his metal jaw. "I've waited a long time for the armor to wake again," he said, "but I didn't expect a human to wear it." Kyle stepped forward, the new power humming under his skin, "and I didn't expect aliens to hunt children," he replied. The general smiled darkly. "Then come," he said. "Let us see if you're worthy of what you carry." The silver-black general stood tall inside the ancient chamber. His presence was like a storm cold, quiet and dangerous. Even Vera, who had faced many enemies in her life, stepped back without realizing it. Kyle, however, didn't move. The armor on his body pulsed with new energy, stronger than ever before. It was no longer just protection. It was a part of him now. The general tilted his head slightly, studying the human. "You're smaller than I expected," he said. Kyle didn't respond. He could feel something strange building in his chest. Like fire and light trying to break free, the armor whispered inside his mind again. Synchronization complete. 88%. Awakening sequence unlocked. Suddenly, Kyle's body lifted a few inches off the ground. His eyes glowed brighter, and new lines appeared across his skin like ancient markings made of light. Iris stared in awe. "He's activating the final layer," she whispered. "No one has done that in 1,000 years." The general didn't wait. He raised his arm and fired a plasma bolt. It struck Kyle directly, but this time, it did nothing. The energy was absorbed by the armor like water and sand. Then Kyle raised his hand slowly. A blast of blue force erupted from his palm, sending the general crashing into the far wall. The room shook, dust falling from above. Kyle landed softly on the ground, his voice deeper and steadier. "I don't want to fight you," he said, "but I will." The general rose, smiling darkly. "Good," he growled, "because I do want to fight you." He charged, and the two collided in a flash of color and sound. Outside, the winds picked up over the ruined city. Old towers shook, and creatures ran from the coming storm. From above, satellites locked onto the battle and began broadcasting it to every nearby colony. Knowingly, the galaxy was now watching. Inside the chamber, the fight was brutal. Kyle moved faster than before, each blow charged with energy, but the general had fought dozens of warriors wearing the armor in the past.
Ow!
He countered Kyle's moves with deadly precision. Each strike of his blade caused sparks and small explosions. Vera wanted to help, but something told her to stay back. This was a battle Kyle had to face alone. Kyle was knocked down again and again, but he kept getting up. Every time he stood, the armor glowed brighter, until the general finally shouted, "You're just a child wearing a relic. You're not the ancestor." Kyle wiped blood from his mouth. "I'm not trying to be," he said. "I'm becoming something new." Then, something changed. The armor's chest plate opened slightly, and a beam of light shot into the sky. In that moment, Kyle saw everything. The memories of warriors, kings, rebels, protectors who once wore the armor. They stood beside him in spirit, silent but strong. One voice rose above all others. "You are the bridge," it said. "You are the answer to both bloods." Kyle stood taller. The full armor now active, silver wings formed from energy on his back. The ground beneath him cracked with power. Vera gasped, her hands over her mouth. "He's no longer just human," she whispered. "He's something else." The general rushed him again, faster this time. But Kyle didn't block. He moved with such speed, the general's weapon sliced only air. Kyle spun, landed a strike to the enemy's chest, and sent him crashing through a stone pillar. When the general rose again, He was coughing blood. He dropped his weapon, looked at Kyle, and knelt. "You have become what the legends feared," the general said. "The armor has awakened fully." Kyle looked down at him, his face calm. "I'm not your enemy," he said. "I want to end the lies, the fear, the bloodlines that divide us. I want peace." The general nodded slowly. "Then lead," he whispered. He removed his command badge and placed it at Kyle's feet. "Others will follow you." The armor powered down gently, the glow softening. Kyle turned to Vera, who stepped forward with tears in her eyes. "You did it," she said. "You became the first to fully unlock it." Kyle nodded. "But I still don't know what comes next." He replied from above. Ships began descending, Rebel fighters, old resistance vessels, even pirate fleets. They had all seen the broadcast. They all came to one place, to follow the human who now wore the ancestor's armor to follow. The warrior who was both alien and human. To follow the one who had awakened something the galaxy had tried to bury. The stars above burned brighter that night, not because of war, but because of hope. Hope born in the form of a boy, a warrior. And that warrior was human? Asterisk, the rebel fleet landed one by one across the shattered plains outside the old temple. Pilots, warriors, and outcasts stepped out from their ships, each drawn by the vision they had seen. A human wearing ancient armor, defeating a feared general, and more than that, offering peace instead of revenge. Kyle stood on a high ledge, watching them gather like waves in the desert. Vera stood beside him, her arms crossed. "This is not just a battle anymore," she said. "This is history waking up." Kyle nodded. The armor now calm against his skin, it felt lighter, more like a second skin than a machine. But inside he was still searching for answers. Why was he really chosen? What was hidden behind this legacy? Vera led him into a cave near the temple. It was sealed with symbols that only responded to the armor. As Kyle approached, the stone doorway opened like a flower, revealing a staircase made of light. They descended in silence, each step humming. Beneath their feet, inside the chamber, was an ancient archive. Glowing walls of data swirled in the air, memories, voices, histories lost for generations. Kyle stepped forward, and the lights responded to him. A deep voice spoke from all directions. "Welcome, heir of two bloods," it said. "You now carry the right to see the forbidden truth." Kyle turned to Vera, who simply nodded. He reached out, and the chamber lit up with images. A long war, hidden by time, unfolded before them. He saw the first warrior of the Armavera's ancestor, standing with a human woman. They fought together, bled together, and loved in secret. But their union created something the council feared. A child, born of two worlds. With potential to awaken powers lost for ages, the High Council, afraid of change, erased all records. Of the child, they ordered both parents hunted, the armor sealed, and any mention of unity destroyed. But the warrior was smarter than them, the voice continued. He hid the armor, encoded it with memory, and sent his child away to Earth. Kyle felt his chest tighten. "That child was my ancestor," he said softly. Vera stepped beside him, eyes wide. "It means the council lied for centuries," she said. "They built an empire on fear, not truth." Just then, the archive began flashing red. A warning appeared in alien script. Unauthorized presence detected. Outside. A massive rumble shook the cave. The council's fleet had arrived, black ships blocking the sky. Dozens of war vessels hovered above the rebel camp, weapons armed from the largest ship. A voice echoed across the land. "Surrender the human wearing the armor." It demanded, "He is a danger to our unity." Kyle stepped out of the cave. Now holding the archive crystal in his hand, "I'm not the danger," he shouted back. His voice carried by the armor's speaker system. "The danger is the lie you built." Vera handed him a transmitter. "Broadcast the truth," she said. Kyle nodded. connecting to every ship, every screen, every station across the empire. Beings from every world saw the real history, the forbidden love, the betrayal, the buried child. And the armor now worn by someone they could no longer deny, inside the council ship, panic spread. The elder leaders argued, some shouting for war, others falling silent. One of them whispered, "The people know now, it's too late to silence him." On the ground, soldiers hesitated, some dropped their weapons. Others turned to their commanders and refused to fight. The lie had shattered. And in its place stood a single figure, Kyle, glowing with ancient power, standing for both sides. The council sent one final threat, a destroyer-class warship. Armed with a cannon large enough to level cities, Vera's voice shook as she read the readings. "They'll fire on us all," she warned. Kyle closed his eyes. "I have one last move," he said, "but I'll need to trust the armor completely." He stepped forward, opened his arms, and allowed the armor to fully merge. Light surrounded. His body, turning into wings of plasma, he rose into the sky, toward the massive ship. Faster than any fighter could follow, the warship fired its cannon, a blinding beam of red energy. But Kyle moved through it, absorbing the force. He struck the ship's core with a final pulse of power, and the entire vessel powered down midair. No explosion, no deaths, just silence. The ship floated gently back to the ground, lights off, weapons cold, and when Kyle returned, landing. Softly beside Vera, the rebels cheered, not for destruction, but for truth. For the first time in memory, no side had to lose. Kyle looked at the horizon, where the stars began to rise. He knew the war wasn't over, but the real battle for truth had been won, and now everything would change. The skies above the battlefield were quiet now. The massive warship that once threatened to destroy everything floated powerless above the ground. Its engines silenced, its weapons cold. Across the rebel camp, soldiers of many worlds looked up not in fear, but in awe. Kyle stood at the center of it all. His armor still glowing faintly, but something in his eyes had changed. He wasn't just wearing power, he was carrying a purpose. Vera stood beside him, the wind brushing her silver hair. Across her face, she looked at Kyle not as a joke or a strange human, but as a leader. As something greater, he did what no alien warrior ever could, she whispered. He ended a war without killing, all around them, alien factions who had once fought. Each other were now gathering in peace. Some still wore armor, others carried old weapons, but none raised them. They had seen the truth, Kyle revealed. They had watched him stand in front of death and choose life for all. The council's warship landed near the edge of the ruins. Its ramp opened slowly, and a group of older leaders stepped out. Their robes were clean, their expressions unreadable, but they walked with no guards. No threats, just silence. The oldest among them looked at Kyle and said, "We once erased your name before you were even born. Now we can no longer hide it, Kyle." Nodded, "You feared unity," he said. "You feared what would happen if humans and aliens became one family. You were right to fear it, because it ends the rule of fear." The elder took a deep breath. "We offer no more lies," he said. He stepped forward. When to everyone's shock he knelt, the rest of the council followed, one by one. The entire battlefield watched in silence as the highest rulers in the empire lowered their heads to a human. Vera whispered, "They are giving it up, the empire, the power, all of it." Kyle looked across the fields, at the rebels, the warriors, the mothers holding children. He didn't want to be a king or a conqueror. He wanted to build something better, so he raised his voice for all to hear. "I don't ask for a throne," he said. "I ask for a future." Cheers rose from every corner of the plain. Aliens who were once enemies embraced. Flags were lowered, armor dropped, not in defeat but in hope. That night a council was formed. Of rulers, but of voices. One from each species, each world, each background. Kyle sat at the table, not above it, but as one of them. The armor stayed with him, quiet but alive. It pulsed softly like a heartbeat of the galaxy itself. Vera became his closest advisor, his shield, his friend. The stories of the ancient warrior were rewritten, no longer censored, no longer hidden. Children learned of the love that once united to worlds, and of the descendant who brought the stars together again. In the days that followed, Kyle traveled. From planet to planet, he met with leaders, healed broken lands, and offered something new, a promise that no child of mixed blood would ever have to hide again, that unity was not a weakness, but the greatest strength of all. One evening, under a violet sky, Kyle stood on a hill with Vera. She watched the stars and said, "Do you think they'll ever forget you?" Kyle smiled gently. "I hope they don't remember me," he said. "I hope they remember what we did together." The armor hummed again, then slowly faded from his body. It melted into light, floating away like dust on the wind. Vera gasped. But Kyle was calm. "It's finished," he said. "The armor has no more war to fight." But deep in the core of the ancient temple, the armor's heart remained. Sleeping, waiting, not for another war, but for a time when the stars would call again, for someone who still believed in unity, in peace, in hope. And when that day comes, it will awaken once more, not for destruction, but for the one who dares to unite the stars.